Okay, YouTubers, another quick game of Interplanetary I spy going on here. We are back on Mars, back in Gale Crater, and we are looking at PIA 19398. And this was taken over a year ago, in 2015, as it says there. And I recommend the TIFF image here, because that's actually pretty good quality, but the JPEG isn't bad. And much better than the mass cam images usually are, because these have been compiled by NASA from the actual original raw images, not the so-called raw images that we get, which are downgraded. Okay, so there is an annotated version of this as well, which gives you scale and stuff, so you can check that out. And basically we have what looks like another statue. Now I was actually looking at what looks like a baby kind of statue head over here on the far left in my previous video, which you may or may not have seen, so check that out, my previous video. And I decided to scan the whole image again and look from left all the way across to this right corner here. And in this right corner there is another statue head, which I shall show you now. Here we go, let's have a look at the raw image. Now there was also this thing right in the middle, near the middle of the image was this thing, which I sent into Ancient Aliens, and they showed on their one of their recent Mars programs, I think this year. Destination Mars, I think it's called. I think they showed this briefly, like for a few seconds. This is a weird little step pyramid thing. You can see clearly the steps on the side, and it's got a weird structure on top and these weird things sticking up. I actually think this is the very tip or top of a much larger structure which is buried under here. Now, whether it's like a burial kind of area or something, and there's tombs here, who knows, but it looks very, very odd indeed, and looks like part of some very small monument, and it is very small. It's only about a foot or two in height, probably about a foot. But I decided to look over to the far right here at these rather interesting rocks up here, scanning around, and then looked down here, and then I zoomed in here and saw this thing, which I thought, hang on a minute. Now I have seen this before, because I did cover this image about a year ago when it came out, and I did a couple of videos using this image and using this panoramic, but I missed this. I completely missed it, and I started looking at this. I thought, hang on a minute. If you look carefully, I know it's an odd shape, but if you've got a kind of very almost straight back to it, and I've got a point here, but you have a nose and a mouth here with an eye here. Now, bear in mind that this image has had quite a lot of darkness and contrast added to it. You can see how dark it is, okay? So I looked it up on the Gigapan, and this is Sol 957. These images are compiled from Sol 957. There we go, 957th Martian day or Sol. There we go. So I looked at 957 on the Gigapan, and I took some clips, and here we have them. Right here. Here's the larger clip from the Gigapan, which was compiled by Neville Thompson. Now this is a lot bluer, because this has been colour corrected, but you can actually see a bit more brightness and contrast here, and in fact it looks slightly better. You can actually see the mouth here and the nose a bit more clearly, and you can see an eye here. If you look really carefully, there's an eye. Now this looks like another statue head, and there may well be an entire statue just below it in the sand. As I've said before, there are lots of statues in this area. In this particular image, there's at least two, possibly more, with other structures like that weird step pyramid thing I just showed you. So there's definitely stuff here. And in this general area, I would say about 10 statues have been found so far, many of which I've found and published myself, but other people have also found them as well. So it's not just me saying this, there's not just rocks, these are real things, and there is wreckage on Mars, there is evidence of previous life on Mars. If you don't believe that, that's up to you, but don't castigate me for believing it, because I have plenty of evidence to back up my theory. Okay, so enough about that. Let's crack on with this and have a look at the enhancements. Now, I'll just flick through these. Here's the basic clip, raw. That's been enhanced. Now I've really brightened it up here, and now you can see the eye and the mouth a lot more clearly, and a rather pointed nose there. Quite hard nose there. That's really odd. And some kind of hair-like structure, or maybe a hat-like structure here. Don't know. It's obviously very old. It could have been there for many, many thousands of years, and only recently been uncovered. This could have been covered in sand for thousands of years, and then the wind could have blown the sand away. Don't know. Or it could have just been stood there like this. Now, is this actually sand below it, or is it on a solid piece of rock? Hard to tell. But it certainly looks like a statue. And here's the negative. You see the mouth detail a bit better there. Okay. I'll just flick through. Change the color temperature there and really brighten it up so you can actually see the eye a lot better. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see the mouth and the sort of teeth-like structure here. So there we go. It's a very odd-looking nose, but this may well be damaged, like a lot of the things we see on Mars. They seem smashed and broken. But then there's not much of an ear visible here, but there is some kind of lighter structure here. You can just about make out here. But the Martians may not have ears like ours. They may have huge ears. They may have tiny ears. They may have almost non-existent looking earlobes. So we don't know that. And in fact, looking at some of the other statues that I've seen, some of them do have enormous ears, and some of them have very, very small ones. So who knows? There may well have been different types of people on Mars. There may have been different cultures up there with different styles of art. But this was a good enhancement. I've really cranked up the brightness and contrast on this. Now you can really see that eye poking out there, looking right at you. And you can see a bit more detail on top here of the carving. Very interesting indeed. I really like this one, and I was really pleased when I found it, because I'd already been over this image and missed it over a year ago. And I'm really glad that I was encouraged to go back and look at it, because I wouldn't have found it otherwise. So there we go. I'll put some more clips of these in at the end. There's a raw clip, there's a different clip, there's a bit further back. Sometimes it looks better to look at it further back. You can actually see that mouth almost a bit clearer. Okay, there's all the different clips. There's that thing. Okay, well there we go. I'll put a couple of these back in at the end of the video anyway, so you can really have a good pause and look at them. But what an interesting artifact we have here. What a cool looking statue. Quite scary looking, if anything. Like a pointed cone head. I'll probably call it cone head statue or something like that. So there we go, folks. Answered on the postcard. If you think this is something different, I don't really see what else it can be. There are just too many of these statues in this area with eyes, clear eyes, noses and mouths, and rather elongated heads, a lot of them. This is different. This is very pointed, but very interesting nonetheless. I mean, you've got to wonder what it was depicting, or whether it was trying to scare people off. Maybe this is a tomb area or a burial area, like I said. Maybe these things are just to keep people away from disturbing their tombs. I don't know. They look pretty scary, some of them. Some of them look like gargoyles, which I found in this area. Some of them look quite placid and serene looking. This one doesn't. This guy looks scared, or maybe he's a warrior or something, putting on a threatening face for some reason. Who knows? But interesting nonetheless. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.